Chapter 5. The Arctic Circle. Early Thanksgiving morning, there was another earthquake in Alaska. An aftershock. Justin and Karen ran to their dad's room. They were afraid when everything started to move.
Please relax, kids,
said George calmly.
It's an aftershock, and it's normal after a big earthquake. Don't worry. Now, go back to your rooms and get ready for breakfast. It's Thanksgiving today.
After breakfast at the lodge, George's cell phone rang. He picked it up and said,
Hello? Yes, of course. I'll be there immediately, Mr. Richardson. Well, we won't celebrate Thanksgiving together today. Mr. Richardson wants to see me in his office,
said George, worried.
The aftershock caused more damage to the pipeline. I'll probably have to travel north to the Arctic Circle.
Karen was disappointed and said,
Oh, Dad, do you have to go on Thanksgiving Day?
It's my job and my responsibility,
said George, smiling at his kids.
Please stay with the nice Kobuk family and celebrate Thanksgiving with them. I don't know how long this job will take, but I'll call you.
But, Dad, this sounds dangerous,
said Justin.
Don't worry, guys,
said George, leaving the lodge.
I'll be careful.
When George got to Mr. Richardson's office, Jim Nicoti was already there. Mr. Richardson was worried and said,
I talked to Mike Murray, the helicopter pilot. He flew over Pump Station 6 near the Yukon River and Pump Station 5 north of the Arctic Circle. He saw some urgent problems on the pipeline, big leaks. George, you have to go north about 200 miles to fix that pipeline. But this time, you're alone. Jim has to go south because Bill Persich, our other engineer, is in bed with the flu. And this is an emergency. Take the big van this time. It's safer. Do you think you can do everything alone?
Sure,
said George.
I'll take the big van and drive north on the Dalton Highway. I have the maps, the tent, and all the things I need.
Mr. Richardson shook hands with George and said,
Good luck and thank you. And please, call me every day.
Jim looked at his friend and said,
Call me if you have any problems.
By 10 o'clock that morning, George was driving his van north towards the Yukon River. Along the road, he saw a moose walking slowly in the deep snow.
What a beautiful animal,
he thought.
We have to protect nature and these wonderful animals.
Pump Station 6 was near the Yukon River, and George went there to check the pipeline. Mike Murray, the helicopter pilot, was right. There was a lot of repair work to do because the two earthquakes damaged the structure of the pipeline. There were black oil leaks on the white snow. George started to work immediately, and as it got darker, he put on his headlamp and worked a few more hours. When the temperature fell to minus 36 degrees Fahrenheit, he couldn't work anymore. It was too cold. He called Mr. Richardson and told him about the problems at Pump Station 6. Then he looked at the beautiful night sky and was amazed at the number of stars. He put up his tent and got ready for the night. He could hear wolves howling in the distance, but he was too tired to worry about them. The next morning, George drove north to Pump Station 5, a few miles above the Arctic Circle. There were many other things to repair, but the weather was getting worse. A strong north wind started to blow, and ice and snow started to fall. George checked his computer, and the weather report said that a blizzard was coming. Alaskan blizzards were the worst kind of snowstorm because there was too much ice, snow, and wind. It was impossible to see anything or go anywhere. Mr. Richardson phoned him and said,
George, a bad blizzard is coming to our area. The weather report calls it the perfect blizzard. That's bad news. Stop your work. Get into your van and drive back now. You're in big danger. We'll finish the work up there when the blizzard ends.
George knew he was in danger. As he was picking up his equipment, he fell on the ice and hurt his foot badly. He got into the van and tried to turn on the motor, but the motor didn't start. He looked at the temperature. It was minus 45 degrees Fahrenheit, and motors can't start at that temperature. His heart beat fast. He had to decide what to do. He called Mr. Richardson and said,
I'm stranded. It's minus 45 degrees Fahrenheit and the motor won't start. Everything's frozen.
Oh no!
exclaimed Mr. Richardson.
What bad luck! Listen, George, you have to leave that area.
But how? I can't move.
Said George nervously.
I can't send a helicopter up there because it can't fly during a blizzard.
Said Mr. Richardson.
The only solution now is the dog sled team. Sled dogs are trained to travel in the worst conditions. They'll find you and get you out of there. Dan Kobuk is a champion musher and a very brave man. He'll come and get you. Let's see, you're 200 miles north. It'll take him about 2 days, but he'll get there. Stay in the van and keep your phone on at all times.
Okay.
Said George weakly. He couldn't believe what was happening to him.
I'll wait for Kobuk then. Please tell my kids what's happening. They're at the Elk Lodge.
I'll call Kobuk first and then your kids.
Said Mr. Richardson excitedly.
Don't worry, we'll solve this.